My brother stole me in the dead of night to save me from a life that wasn't mine. I, Sophia, 19, am writing this from my dorm room at the University of Colorado Boulder. I'm here breathing this mountain air and studying literature because of my brother, David. He's 29, and right now, he's sitting alone in his apartment in Denver, carrying the weight of what he did for me. Our entire family, save for a few, has turned their backs on us, and the guilt of watching him slowly break under that isolation is what brings me here. Some backstory is necessary. We grew up in a tight-knit, deeply conservative community in rural Wyoming. Our town wasn't just religious. It was an ecosystem of expectation, duty, and patriarchal rule. While we weren't at church every Sunday, the unspoken law was absolute. Parents' word is final. Daughters are a resource of the family's stability, and sons are heirs to a very specific, rugged legacy. Our father, Robert, 45, is the eldest of 4 brothers. His entire clan, his parents, siblings, their spouses, and a swarm of cousins, lives within a 15-mile radius of the family ranch. Our mother, Grace, 44, came from a slightly different background. Her parents were from the same town, but had moved to Arizona for retirement years ago. Her only brother, our Uncle James, is in the Air Force, stationed in Germany, and her sister, our Aunt Maria, moved to San Diego for her career as a nurse. We are, for all intents and purposes, a typical Caucasian family from the American West, where reputation as currency and conformity is survival. The catalyst for our exile happened to our older sister, Rebecca. She's 24 now. Back in 2019, during her junior year at a state college a few hours away, she got pregnant. The father was a guy she'd met at a rodeo event. It was a fling, and he wanted nothing to do with the consequences. She didn't realize she was pregnant until she came home for summer break, already showing. The plan, as dictated by our father and uncles, was for her to have the baby, give it up for adoption to a good family within the church network, and return to school with her mistake erased. But Rebecca, in a rare act of defiance, softened by a surprise and maternal instinct, refused. She had a little boy, Ethan, in February 2020. I was a junior in high school then, a bookish girl with dreams that stretched beyond the county line. David had already been gone for years. He'd gotten a full-ride scholarship to study software engineering in Denver, graduated, and landed a good job there. He was a black sheep not because he was a failure, but because his success looked different. It involved keyboards and code, not calving seasons and cattle drives. He visited when he could, always bringing me books and quietly asking about my plans. My plans crystallized in the fall of my senior year. I applied early decision to Boulder and, to my shock and joy, was accepted in December with a merit scholarship that covered a significant chunk of tuition. It wasn't enough for a room and board, but I was determined. I scoured applications for every grant, every work-study possibility. I shared the news with David over a static-filled phone call, and I could hear his proud smile through the line. I told my parents cautiously. My mother's eyes held a fleeting pride before clouding over with resignation. My father just grunted and said, "We'll see." "We'll see" turned into a death sentence of my future in May, just weeks before my high school graduation. The family gathered at my grandparents' ranch for a barbecue. Under the string lights and the smell of grilled meat, my father called me into his study. Rebecca was there too, looking exhausted. Little Ethan asleep in a carrier on her chest. "Sophia," my father began, his voice leaving no room for debate. "Your scholarship is a blessing, but Rebecca needs the work. She can't raise a child alone and build a future. The family has decided you will defer your admission. You'll stay here, help your sister with Ethan, and get a job at the diner in town. In a year or two, when Rebecca is on her feet, maybe you can think about community college nearby." I felt the room tilt. Defer? Dad, I can't defer the scholarship. It's for this fall. And I don't want to work at the diner. I want to go to Boulder. My father's face turned to stone. What you want is irrelevant. This is what the family needs. You are needed here. Rebecca's mistake shouldn't cost her everything, and your ambition shouldn't cost this family its stability. Your duty is here. Rebecca looked at the floor, tears streaming silently down her face. I realized then that this wasn't just my father's decree. It had been ratified by the unspoken counsel of uncles and grandparents. I was being drafted into a life of quiet servitude. I fought. I cried. I screamed that it wasn't fair. My father's final words were, "Life isn't fair. You're staying. The discussion is over." I was numb for days. I called David, my voice breaking as I relayed the verdict. He was silent for a long moment. Then his voice, usually so calm, was sharp with anger. "No, absolutely not. That is not happening, Sophia. David, he won't budge. He's got everyone on his side. Let me worry about that," he said. "You start acting normal. Don't argue anymore. Just go along with it for now. And start gathering your things. Your birth certificate, your social security card, any important documents you can find. Hide them. We're going to fix this." A plan formed in whispers over encrypted messages, and during his next visit, where he took me for a drive under the guise of getting ice cream, he had done his research, citing online forums and legal advice sites. He knew the steps, secured documents, open a bank account in my name he could deposit into, find a way to leave without a traceable confrontation. The goal was to get me to Boulder and established as a student before the family could legally drag me back. Since I was 18, they had no legal hold, only a powerful cultural and emotional one. The execution felt like a scene from a spy movie. My graduation came and went, a hollow ceremony. I pretended to settle into plan, even going so far as to fill out an application for the diner. All the while, I was secretly packing a single duffel bag with essentials and my most precious books. David transferred the first semester's room and board money into my new account. The date was set for a Friday in late July. That night, after my parents had gone to bed, I slipped out my window with my duffel bag, leaving a brief, heartfelt letter on my bed explaining that I loved them, but I had to choose my own life. I walked 2 miles to the darkened parking lot of the town's only gas station, where David's car idled under a flickering streetlight. He jumped out, threw my bag in the back, and hugged me so tightly I thought my ribs would crack. Not a word was spoken. We just drove, the town lights disappearing in the rearview mirror, swallowed by the vast, starry Wyoming night. The fallout was thermonuclear. By the time we reached Denver the next morning, my phone was blowing up. Angry, betrayed, venomous texts, pleading, tearful voice messages from my mother. Then, the calls from the extended family. David's phone rang incessantly. He let me listen on speaker. Our father, roaring, calling David a traitor, a poison in the family, a soft city boy who had stolen his daughter. Our uncles, with their gruff threats. "You bring her back, boy, or don't you ever show your face around here again. Think you're better than us? You're nothing." One Aunt Coley informed him he was dead to her. Our paternal grandparents disowned him on the spot, stating he was no longer a grandson of theirs. David had predicted this. He just nodded his jaw tight and silenced his phone. "They'll burn themselves out," he said, but his eyes were bleak. A week later, he drove me to Boulder, helped me move into my dorm, bought me towels and a mini fridge, and handed me a prepaid debit card linked to our account. "Focus on your classes. Don't worry about the money. I've got it." He was covering everything my scholarship didn't. Room, board, books, a meager living allowance. It was a staggering act of financial sacrifice. For the first year, I was buoyed by the adrenaline of escape and the novelty of freedom. I made friends, aced my classes, and felt like I was finally breathing. David checked in weekly, always asking about my studies, never about his own life. He'd visit every few weeks, take me to dinner, ask about my friends. He seemed okay, if quieter than usual. But during my sophomore year, the cracks began to show. Our contact became more routine, less substantive. His visits felt shorter. He'd lost weight. He always deflected when I asked how he was doing, joking about work being busy. The only time his eyes lit up was when he talked about my progress. The real alarm bell came from Aunt Maria. She'd always been a cool aunt, the one who sent David and me science kits and novels when we were kids. She visited me in Boulder last October. Over coffee, her cheerful demeanor faded. "Sophia, have you noticed how David is lately?" I hesitated. "He seems tired, stressed about work. Maybe." She shook her head. "It's more than that. I talk to him every week. He's hollow. He mentions work, asks about you, asks about me, and then there's just silence. He stopped talking about anything he enjoys." I asked when he last went hiking, or to a movie, or even just had a beer with a friend. He couldn't answer. I think losing the family, as toxic as they were, severed his entire social world. He's completely alone. Her words clicked into place, confirming my gnawing fears. David wasn't just an introvert. He was a man in solitary confinement. His entire social structure had been the complex, often frustrating web of family gatherings. Weekly Sunday dinners, holiday parties, summer barbecues, helping cousins with projects. It was a world that judged him but also contained him. Now it was gone, and he had nothing to replace it with. He'd poured all his energy and resources into building my new life, leaving his own a barren shell. The guilt was a physical pain. He had given me everything, and in doing so, had drained himself. I knew then that getting him to talk, to admit he was struggling, would be like prying open a sealed vault. But I had to try. He gave me my life back. I had to find a way to give him his. I planned an intervention of sorts. I asked him to come to Boulder for a weekend, insisting I needed help with a big project. When he arrived, looking thinner and wearing a forced smile, I ordered his favorite pizza and sat him down. "David," I started, my voice trembling, "I need to talk to you about something serious. Aunt Maria and I were worried about you." He went still, his pizza untouched. "Worried about what?" "I'm fine, Soph." "You're not, and it's okay that you're not. But you have to talk to me. Please." I took a deep breath. I actually wrote about this online to ask for advice on how to help you. His eyebrows shot up. "You what?" "I wrote our story, what you did for me, and what's happening to you now." I opened my laptop and pulled up the post I drafted, turning the screen toward him. "Just read it." He read the title aloud, his voice barely a whisper. "My brother saved me from being forced into a caretaker role. Now he's depressed after our family disowned us." He stopped, pinching the bridge of his nose. He read the entire thing in silence, his expression unreadable. When he finished, he leaned back, covering his face with his hands. His shoulders shook silently. I moved to sit beside him, wrapping my arms around him. "It's okay. We're going to fix this. Together." That broke the dam. Over the next hours, he spoke in a raw, halting monologue. He described the emptiness of his apartment, the dread of weekends. He talked about driving for hours after work, just to avoid going home. He admitted to feeling stuck in neutral, while watching his few college friends get married, buy houses, have kids, a life trajectory that felt alien and inaccessible to him. He confessed that he sometimes lay in bed thinking that if he didn't wake up, it wouldn't be the worst thing. That admission sent a chill straight through my soul. I feel like I'm watching my own life through a window, he said. I got you out. That was the mission. And now the mission's over, and I'm just here. We scrolled through the comments on my post together. Strangers praised his courage, called him a hero. He scoffed softly, embarrassed. But other comments offered practical advice. Therapy, specifically seeking a therapist who understood family estrangement and religious trauma, joining hobby groups, board game cafes, hiking clubs, volunteer organizations, trying low-pressure social apps like Meet Up for Friends, not just dates, considering a pet for companionship. We made lists. He agreed, with my persistent nudging, to call his company's employee assistance program on Monday to set up therapy. The most poignant moment came when I asked if he ever thought about reconciling. With Rebecca, in a heartbeat, he said immediately, "With Mom, it's complicated. The rest of them." He pulled out his phone, scrolled back to 3-year-old texts, and handed it to me. The vitriol was breathtaking. Our father's messages were full of rage and condemnation. One uncle had mocked David's engineering job as playing with toys for a living. Another had threatened physical violence. A grandfather had written him off as no son of mine. Then he showed me the last messages from our mother. They were different. "Mom, your father is demanding you bring her home. Please, David, I can't take this. David, Mom, you know I can't. If I do, they'll never let her go. Mom, I know. Just take care of her. I love you both. David, I will. I love you too, Mom." I started crying. The quiet rebellion in that exchange was devastating. "She's trapped too," David said softly. "But she made her choice that day. She chose to stay." The weekend was a turning point. He met some of my roommates, and after initial awkwardness, he slowly relaxed, even laughing at a dumb joke. I saw a ghost of the brother I remembered, wry, observant, kind. When he left on Sunday, he hugged me and said, "Thank you for not letting me disappear." The journey back was slow, with setbacks. Therapy was a struggle at first, but he stuck with it. He adopted a retired greyhound, a gentle, lazy creature named Gus, who forced him out on walks and became a silent, loving presence in his apartment. He forced himself to go to a board game night at a local comic shop, and while he didn't make a best friend, he had a pleasant conversation. He started reconnecting with one old college friend who was also feeling adrift. The real healing, however, came from an unexpected source. Last summer, after my internship ended, David and I flew to San Diego to visit Aunt Maria. She had been our lifeline, our cheerleader. What she hadn't told us was that she had also been working on another rescue mission. When we landed, I turned on my phone to a message from her. It was a photo of her, my mother, and Rebecca, all sitting on Aunt Maria's patio, smiling tentatively at the camera. The caption read, "Surprise, we've been waiting for you." I stared at the photo, my heart hammering. David looked over my shoulder and froze. "Is that?" "They're here," I breathed. The drive to Aunt Maria's was tense and silent, full of unspoken fear and hope. When we pulled up, the front door flew open. My mother and Rebecca ran out, not with anger, but with open arms. They engulfed us in a hug, so tight it squeezed the air from my lungs. David, stiff at first, then melted, his body shuddering with silent sobs. We stood there in Aunt Maria's front yard, a fractured unit painfully knitting itself back together. The week that followed was an emotional whirlwind. My mother, with Aunt Maria's support, had finally reached her breaking point with my father's tyranny. She'd told him she was going to see her children, with or without his blessing. She and Rebecca had used money David had been secretly sending Rebecca for years, something I never knew about, to buy plane tickets. Rebecca had left Ethan with a trusted friend for the week. wanting this first reunion to be about the four of us. There were long talks, tears, apologies from my mother for not being stronger sooner. Rebecca thanked David, over and over, for saving me, admitting that watching my force fate had been her nightmare. She was in community college now, working part-time, and had a supportive group of friends. She was making it. Slowly, David was quiet, taking it all in. The greatest moment was watching him with Rebecca's son, Ethan, now a rambunctious 3-year-old. Ethan was shy at first, hiding behind Rebecca's legs. But David, with infinite patience, didn't push. He just sat on the floor and started building a tower with blocks. Slowly, curiously, Ethan came over and knocked it down. David laughed, a real, deep, joyful sound I hadn't heard in years, and built it again. By the end of the week, Ethan was climbing into David's lap to hear a story. We returned to Colorado changed. The void wasn't gone, but it was no longer a gaping chasm. It was a scar, tender but healing. David continued therapy. He joined a weekend hiking group and actually started looking forward to it. He even went on a few casual dates, reporting back with a humorous dread that felt refreshingly normal. This past Christmas, we didn't go to San Diego. My mother and Rebecca came to us. We all crammed into David's small house. David, me, Mom, Rebecca, Ethan, and Gus the dog. It was chaotic, messy, and filled with laughter. We cooked together, messed up the cookies, and watched cheesy movies. There was no talk of duty or tradition, only the quiet, joyous noise of a chosen family. As I write this, I am in my final semester at Boulder. David is in the living room, arguing good-naturedly with my mother about the best way to fix a leaky faucet he's been ignoring. Rebecca is helping Ethan color, and Gus is snoring on my feet. The road here was paved with sacrifice and shadowed by depression, but we walked it together. My brother carried me out of the darkness. And then, hand in hand, we found our way back into the light.